Hello and welcome to IAFC TV. We're pleased to be here in Atlanta, Georgia, covering FRI. I'm your host, Tara Jones. All this week, we'll be featuring the big events and newsmakers making headlines this year. Here's a preview of what's coming up in today's show.
Well, we've had a very productive year this year with the IAFC focusing on providing products and services to our members.
Gosh, the year's been a whirlwind and certainly an important part of what we do.
Each other. There was less than 60 five-bugle chiefs, and we realized we didn't know each other.
I've been on the board for about 14 years, and the last 8 as the treasurer. So
learned over the years that informing the community is a very effective way to get them engaged.
Let's begin with the IAFC president. We are pleased to be joined now by IAFC President Chief Eggleston. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. You are wrapping up a successful term again as IAFC's president this week, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about a few of the accomplishments that you are most proud of during your term?
Well, we've had a very productive year this year with the IAFC focusing on providing products and services to our members and continuing to evolve the fire service. You know, we produced a new Chiefs Guide, which we think is going to be a wonderful guide for new chiefs entering the role as a fire chief and what they need to focus on during their career. We've also produced a Lavender Ribbon Report, which focuses on how do we mitigate cancer in the fire service. And then we've also been able to produce our Wildfire Guide to help fire chiefs address WUI issues within their community. But we've also been able to help diversify our organization by expanding our committees and diversifying those committee appointments so that we can be more representative of the communities in which we serve. I think we've been extremely active in our European business as well, being able to meet with the federal European Union officers to collaborate on such things as officer development and learning and development in general in the fire service. So we're really excited about increasing our footprint internationally. But I think it's been a wonderful year engaging with our members and looking at how we can advance the fire service.
So a major role of the IAFC is advocacy. Can you tell us about some of the organization's legislative accomplishments this year?
Well, we've been very busy on Capitol Hill this year, engaging with the legislative staff and our congressmen there to advance issues within the fire service. It's been very important for us to secure our Fire and Safer grants, the funding for those grants, so we can help fire services kickstart some very important initiatives. But it's also been an opportunity this year to go before Congress in 2 congressional hearings to address issues related to pipeline safety, as well as how climate change is affecting our ability to manage wildfire and natural events in general. So it was a wonderful opportunity to talk about our role in managing safety for our community.
FRI 2019 is your last major event during your term. What are you looking forward to most this week?
Well, I'm looking forward to continuing to engage with our members and our committees and our sections and divisions to talk about how we can continuously advance the fire service. We have a lot of energy in this association, a lot of smart people working very hard to bring value to not only their community but to the fire service as a whole. So I think we can harness that energy and excitement and really do some very good for our communities.
Now, you've served on the IAFC Board of Directors for several years now, first with the VCOS representative, director at large, and finally now as an elected officer. What are some things that you've learned transitioning from those positions?
I've learned perspective. You know, I've been in the fire service going on 40 years combined with my volunteering career experience. And I thought I knew the fire service until this year, and I've had a chance to travel around the country and internationally. And it provided me perspective that I didn't have before, which I think brings, you know, value to myself as well as the association. So I've learned that, you know, get out there, engage with people, talk about the challenges and opportunities that they have locally, and then bring that back and we can discuss it at a broader way of how we can advance the fire service, how we can advance this profession. Our communities and our nation's changing rapidly, so we've got to stay ahead of that change and be able to continuously provide good services to our citizens.
Chief Eggleston, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It was great to speak with President Chief Eggleston. In addition to having the privilege of interviewing IAFC's leaders, IAFC TV is also highlighting a few of the fire departments and organizations doing important work in the fire service today. Here's a preview of the fire departments and organizations we'll be giving you a tour of today.
Being involved in the community gets our firefighters down to the street level so they understand what goes on, they understand the culture, they understand the people.
We want you to be able to come to a training, get on a prop and say, hey, I can see that happening in my town, and know how to safely handle it.
With a state as big as ours and as diverse as ours, the only way that we can accomplish our mission is through the power of partnership, whether it's a landowner, a citizen, a community, or a fire department.
We take the opportunity to actually look at our fire data in order to determine what issues that we're seeing within the county, and that's how we focus our fire safety programs.
We've developed electronic billboards, media messaging signs, Facebook targeting for geographic areas to ensure they're getting the right message at the right time so they can make the right decision.
For our first profile, we head to Texas.
The main mission of TEACS is actually pretty broad. We don't just do fire training like you're seeing behind me. We do training for law enforcement, we do business development training, we do infrastructure training. So what most people would consider public works, high line training for line workers and wastewater utility type of training, we do that as well. We're very cutting edge in the training that we deliver. Year round, we're providing training related to leadership, basic firefighting skills, advanced firefighting skills, shipboard, aircraft, industrial, or structural firefighting. We're also home to Texas A&M Task Force 1 and Texas A&M Task Force 2. We have the largest fire school in the United States. It's the second largest one in the world. The only one larger than this is over in the Middle East in Qatar, and that one is actually managed by us. Our instructors train there, we manage that particular site as well.
TEACS is a world-known name in the emergency response training industry. We've trained in over 80 countries. This past year, we train all over the United States. We also have an extension program that goes out all over the state of Texas. We provide industrial fire training, municipal fire training, hazmat, rescue, and all leadership courses here at the facility. This past year, we trained over 116,000 students. There's no other training facility in the world that can say that they've made that type of impact. One of the big aspects of TEACS is the curriculum. We use career firefighters, people that are in the business, to be the subject matter experts, to make sure that we are developing curriculum that has real-world application in it. Disaster City is 60 acres of engineered buildings and rescue props. You won't find a disaster city anywhere in the world that is more realistic than what we have here at Brayton Firefield. Our training field, it has both industrial and municipal props. We have burn buildings for interior firefighting, structural firefighting, that we do the training there. We also have industrial props. Our municipal firefighters today have more industry in their districts than they've ever had before. So it is important that they also are out here on these industrial props and learning how to handle an industrial situation safely. We're known for our fire training, but we also want to be known for all the other aspects of emergency services training that we can do. We do high angle rescue, confined space rescue, rope rescue. We also do train the FEMA teams. We do hazmat training. And then we have the EOTC, the Emergency Operations Training Center. That's where we do our higher level professional training for more of your officer level, PIO level, fire chief level.
Because my training is so diverse and well-rounded, it's brought different things back to the city, different things back to my company that I can now pass down to the firefighters that are assigned to me.
Coming to TEACS and taking these classes, it makes me a more well-rounded asset. I've been trained in all these different specialties, and so if they need somebody at the wildland station or, hazmat station, I can fill in for that.
My dad started bringing me up here in 1968. He was an instructor out here, and so this year is the 90th. I can remember all the way back to about the 39th or 38th school, and I've watched this fire school develop into this world-class operation that it is, and this annual school every year is it's a tradition.
We have an overarching goal of 300 by 30, 300,000 students by 2030. That's very attainable for us, and that's a combination of training, physical site training and then online training. But really what we need to be known for, and I believe we already are, but we want to continue to expand that, is delivering cutting edge training that is the highest quality. And that's what draws people back to us year after year.
We have the greatest fire training field in the world. The props are all realistic. And that's the main thing. We want realism in our training. We want you to be able to come to a training, get on a prop and say, hey, I can see that happening in my town or my facility, and know how to safely handle it.
We are joined by Chief Otto Drodes. Thank you so much for joining us, First Vice President. Tell me, Chief Drodes, you served as Second Vice President this past year. What are some of the important issues that you addressed either on Capitol Hill or meeting with some of the other fire service leaders throughout the year?
Gosh, the year's been a whirlwind, and certainly an important part of what we do is advocate for our fire service, and that's done in many different ways. Certainly the board does that, the officers of the organization, but that happens at all levels of the organization, whether it be the divisions, the sections, the committees that play an important role in our IAFC. My role last year was really learning about the organization and going out and advocating. In fact, this past April, we were in Washington, D.C., where we got to meet with many different officials from FEMA to the FCC to Homeland Security, and really what our message was, advocating for the fire service in the form of legislation that would make it easier for our members to carry out their work within each community. And that really went from everything from our NMAS system, which has been used in many of the hurricanes lately. In fact, I was able to deploy crews to Hurricane Harvey in Houston, to where NMAS, that was almost at its inception, and it got used by a lot of the USAR teams there. And then in subsequent hurricanes, and Hurricane Irma that struck the Florida Keys very severely, as well as this past year with Hurricane Michael. So we're advocating that be a national model, which we believe it will be. And so we've gotten some good feedback from FEMA, as well as meeting with the Acting Secretary of Homeland Security, and really talking about some of the things that are so relevant to the fire service of today. If we look at the landscape of our nation, what we're finding is wildfires are becoming more severe. Hurricanes are impacting more people. And at the forefront of all these responses are our firefighters that are led by their fire chiefs who we serve.
Continuing along the Homeland Security talk, you are an expert on active shootings. In light of recent events over the weekend, what are some of the resources that the IAFC can tap into to help with this situation that now seems to be almost routine?
So this is an area that it's always viewed as somebody else's problem, but really for me this came home during the Pulse shooting, and I was also the former fire chief in El Paso. So over this past week, I've been in contact with some of the folks in El Paso, and certainly understand some of the things they're going through, but certainly unless you're on the ground feeling what's going on there, There's nothing like that impact that people are feeling there. So what we've tried to do in the IFC is really put together a set of policy, a set of resources that people can look to see how can we do it within our communities, because each community is a little bit different. So what works in Orlando may not necessarily be the same model that you use in El Paso or Dayton or Columbine or any of the others that have been struck by these tragedies over the years. So when it comes to equipment, deployment, coordination with law enforcement, these are things that we're acutely focusing on to give our members the tools so that when it happens within their community, and we hope that it never happens again, they're prepared to respond to the greatest extent possible.
Chief Drodes, thank you so much for joining us today. Great information.
My pleasure.
It was good to speak with Chief Drodes. In our next profile, we head to South Carolina.
Help! 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 Got you, buddy. I'm glad you guys are here.
Myrtle Beach has over 10 miles of beach, which means we have 10 miles of ocean. And with the number of visitors that we do have and our residents, we really have to provide the best public safety we can on our beaches. We are relatively a very small town with only 33,000 in our permanent population, but in the summer months we swell to over 18 million plus visitors. So having a dedicated ocean rescue team, I feel, is imperative to our public safety plan. Our police department for over 30 years was responsible for our beach and ocean safety. But as our city grew, it just did not become feasible any longer. So the decision was made to move it over to the fire department.
So as of March of 2018, we took over the full responsibility of the beach. We knew it was a large undertaking. One of our core principles is we believe we're an elite team. So there was no doubt in my mind that our department would respond to that and respond in a positive manner. So our ocean rescue team is comprised of 38 specialized individuals that respond to marine incidents.
We're one of 8 departments on the East Coast that have the USLA ART certificate. That stands for Aquatic Rescue Response Team, which again we can respond 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. We have 4 Colorados that have rescue boards on them. We also have 4 jet skis, 3 UTVs, and 1 boat that we can utilize if needed. When the team first started, there was a big group of us that initially were eager to start this program, and it seems to be following suit with new members joining each year.
We have individuals on the apparatus working the normal shifts, but we didn't reduce any staffing or change any of our deployment models. It's all fully funded by overtime and firefighters working on their days off to provide this service to the beach.
So I'm a firefighter paramedic every 3rd day for 24 hours. And then in my time off, I work 8 hours a day on the beach. I almost think of it as 2 different jobs, but it's still gratifying that I'm helping people in the city of Myrtle Beach, our visitors, our residents, in the same capacity, but a little bit different on the beach, you know.
Our number 1 goal is to provide the safety of our residents and guests while they're on the beach, and also serve as an ambassador while we're down there. 2018 was a great year. 2,000 times we had just normal conversations with people on where to go eat, get directions, that sort of thing. About 500 times our crews down there were able to provide medical assistance, so we didn't have to send an ambulance or a first responder. And we actually had 16 confirmed rescues that summer.
Of course, it is, getting in the water and saving someone that's in trouble, but it goes beyond that, as in the educational part. letting people know how not to be in that position, talking to them about weather, talking to them about different currents, how to get out of the, a rip current, how to get out of longshore currents.
We have plans for hurricanes, we have plans for fires, but when people go to the beach, we don't necessarily think of having a plan for that. Where do you go if you do lose your child or you become separated? The challenge for us is that we're dealing with 18 million visitors. It's not just the 30,000+ people that live here annually. So how do you get that message to those people?
People come in on vacation and are here for a week at a time, so we get to spend a very short amount of time with them. So we've developed electronic billboards, media messaging signs, Facebook targeting for geographic areas. We're doing everything we can to specifically target the people who are here in that time frame to ensure they're getting the right message at the right time so they can make the right decision. In 2018, we had 219 missing children who were relocated with their families that day. That's a staggering number. One is far too many. So we decided to find a creative way to attract the children's eyes to a sign and also to a number so they can identify where they're at. So we visually wanted to attract their eyes to a character. Also, we wanted to put a number on there so they know where they're at. So if they do get lost, they can tell the lifeguards, they can tell our ocean rescue members, and they can tell our police department. Our Ocean Rescue Battalion Chief came up with a Know Your Avenue campaign, and this campaign is strictly to ensure that people going onto the beach are able to visually see an avenue and be able to identify it. All of the hotels look the same as you move down the beach, so it's easy to get lost. So this Know Your Avenue campaign with Sunny Swell is going to not only help our first responders, it's going to help our ocean rescue, and it's going to help our tourists and visitors that come throughout the year.
Even one drowning is one too many. But the fact that our drownings have decreased and the patrol of our beaches has increased, I think that is the best measure of success for this program.
We have an incredible future with this ocean rescue program. We're one of only a handful of fire departments on the East Coast that are accredited by the United States Life Saving Association. We're fortunate to have an incredible group of employees that work here. We're supported by an incredible council, an incredible mayor, an incredible city council. We're certainly poised to continue growing in the right direction in the future.
We are joined by Chief Donna Black, the co-chair of Women Chiefs Council. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
So tell us when the WCC was formed and what's their mission?
So in 2017, under the President, Chief Sinclair, and the board, they agreed to form two programs, one being Women Chiefs Council. So they brought in Chief Kara Kelfbrenner and I to co-chair this, and they basically gave us a clean slate to look at women chiefs and what we can do to promote more women in the fire service and what do we need to do. So we had a clean slate. So we went into our first meeting in May in Henderson, brought in about 26 of what we identified as less than 65 bugle female chiefs and had a meeting, and we just got in a room and said, hey, what do we need to do? How do we make it easier for folks to move up? What do we need? What are our challenges? What we found is we should all know each other. There was less than 65 bugle chiefs, and we realized we didn't know each other. 2 years later, we can call any of us can call each other and ask advice. So what we realized at the 5 bugle level that we were there, and we got there, and we know how we got there, but how do we promote up from there? So that's where we've kind of put our focus.
Sounds like it's been very successful.
It has. We're going into our meeting tomorrow, and we've invited battalion chiefs and above to have all-day meetings, and looking forward to it in a large crowd tomorrow.
And that leads right into this question. What are you most looking forward to at this week's meetings at FRI?
The energy around us expanding who could come to the meeting. We started originally with just 5 bugle chiefs, just chief of the departments, and then we realized because we were there, it was those below that we, in ranks, we had to figure out how do we move them up, how do we encourage them, what can we do? So we're really focusing this meeting on battalion chiefs and above to come in. One of the things we're doing tomorrow, we're doing chief challenge chats. So we've asked a couple of the chiefs to identify a challenge they had at the 5 bugle level, how they solved it, and to provide solutions. Because what we were finding when we talked to folks is they had challenges and they didn't know how to work through that. So we're really focusing on the mentoring piece to try to make sure we can get people interested in wanting to move up to be 5 bugles and helping them work through that process.
Do you feel that that's the most pressing issue, is in a male-dominated industry, trying to raise the women out there to want to become fire chiefs?
Yes. We were in a room, we did a panel discussion at a different conference, and we had about 8 of us up there, and every one of us said, well, we never thought we'd do this. And all the women in the audience were like, well, we want to do that, and you've got to tell us how to do that. And so we identified that that was the gap, maybe, and there's people out there that want to move to that 5 bugle level, but they just don't know how. So we're hoping we can focus on that piece with mentoring.
So you've accomplished a lot in 2 years. Where do you see this taking women in firefighting 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
I think the big thing is we all need to be involved and be out there and be role models and be willing to speak at FRI, write articles so that firefighters all around the country, quite frankly, all around the world, know that it's possible to get to that level. So I think our biggest thing is to make sure that we're out there saying, hey, it is possible to be a 5 bugle chief, and try to help them with the resources so that 5, 10 years from now, it's not really a conversation, it's just a norm.
Fantastic. Chief Donna Black, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good to get that update on the Women Chiefs Council from Chief Donna Black. Our tours continue. Next, we head to one of the largest counties in Virginia, which is home to a large international airport and major metro system. And they train for a variety of incidents.
In July of 2014, the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors established the Loudoun County Combined Fire and Rescue System, which includes the Loudoun County Fire and Rescue and 15 volunteer fire and EMS companies. Loudoun County is one of the fastest growing counties in the nation and is forecasted to grow by another 14% by 2025. The county has established itself as an international center for technology, communications, and transportation. Data Center Alley is the world's largest concentration of data centers, with more than 70% of the world's internet traffic passing through Loudoun County's digital infrastructure. The Loudoun County Combined Fire and Rescue System delivers essential emergency and non-emergency fire and rescue emergency medical services from 20 stations strategically located across all 520 square miles of Loudoun County, Virginia.
The Loudoun County Combined Fire and Rescue System Special Operations Teams coordinate preparedness and emergency response for a variety of hazards. Most frequently, our Special Operations Teams respond to hazardous materials responses, swift water rescues, and technical rescues. However, with the addition of Metro Rail in Loudoun County, we developed and train regularly on our Metro Rail simulator to ensure we are prepared with the specialized skills necessary to respond safely and effectively. The Command Competency Lab provides interactive simulations of incidents through computer programs and three-dimensional modeling. The exercises take firefighters, company officers, and command officers through simulated incidents to teach them to make better decisions on the fire ground. Decisions that could potentially save firefighter and civilian lives. A simulation lasts about 20 minutes with 8 to 10 people participating in any given incident. Participants playing the roles of responding fire and EMS units stage with a portable radio in the classroom. Then as dispatched, they take their assignment at the simulation workstations. After the incident is complete, all participants reconvene in the classroom to review and learn from each incident. Of the 29,000 incidents to which our Combined Fire and Rescue System members respond annually, approximately 75% of those incidents are EMS in nature.
The Loudoun County Combined Fire and Rescue System has over 670 career personnel and roughly 800 operational volunteers.
As of January 2019, the Loudoun County Department of Fire and Rescue has made available to all volunteers the ability to go get an NFPA physical, which is a phenomenal health screening opportunity for all of us. Mental health in public safety, mental health concerns in public safety are really taking the spotlight now. Loudoun County has stepped out in front of everyone in the industry to include that forgotten segment, that would be the volunteer, and to allow the volunteer to get the same mental health access and EAP access that the career provider would get.
Loudoun's development of revolutionary programs such as the Factor Blood Delivery Program, our Fire and EMS Command Competency Program, and the newly launched System-Wide Smoke Alarm Program demonstrate that as a combination system, we successfully collaborated system members to bring innovation through teamwork.
Factor stands for Field Available Component Transfusion Response, which basically means we're able to bring all the components of blood, so the packed cells, the plasma, and the platelets, to a scene. In September 2017, we had a major incident involving a full-size school bus that had been converted into a food truck that hit a family of 5 broadside in their personal vehicle. So it created a very lengthy extrication, and we did a sort of game time decision on the fly to try to bring additional blood to the scene. That prompted us to say, okay, this is something we hadn't done before. How could we formalize this? It expands our capacity to deliver state-of-the-art care to our most critically injured patients at the point of injury, brings in a new capability that we've never had before, and is sort of a new model, a new paradigm in blood administration in the pre-hospital setting.
Innovation through teamwork describes the heart and core of our fire and rescue system here in Loudoun County. Working as a team, our career and volunteer system members seek new and innovative ways to provide emergency and non-emergency services. Our combined governance structure is a model for other systems to follow, using collaboration and cooperation as a core benchmark.
The responsibility of the Fire Marshal's Office is to ensure the fire and life safety of the citizens and visitors of Loudoun County. We take the opportunity to actually look at our fire data in order to determine what issues that we're seeing within the county, and that's how we focus our fire safety programs. The smoke alarm program has our personnel going out the first Saturday of every month from April to October. Smoke alarms are one of those devices that people tend to forget about because it's on their ceiling, and they don't realize that just like other appliances, they need to be replaced after 10 years. So the program helps us bring attention to that to homeowners and go into their homes and do an assessment for them. The system was able to partner with National Geographic Books and participate in their Doggy Defender series. Dolly the fire dog is one of our 3 working canines. Dolly is an accelerant detection dog, and her handler is Captain Bun Herndon, and they work together to investigate fires and make sure that they can do proper investigations. The opportunity to partner with Nat Geo really allows us to demonstrate and highlight what our Fire Marshal Office does, as well as reach a broad spectrum, because a lot of people misunderstand what we do and how we do it.
The growing resident population, an increasing number of visitors, the presence of critical infrastructure, and proximity to the nation's capital all require that the Loudoun County Combined Fire and Rescue System remain committed to providing ongoing coordinated efforts aimed at ensuring public safety and security.
I am joined by Chief Richard Caruso, who is the current treasurer and will be installed as the IAFC second vice president. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So how are you approaching your transition? Because you are no stranger to board positions within the IAFC.
Correct. I've been on the board for about 14 years, and the last 8 as the treasurer. So really making that transition from treasurer into the chairs up to presidency this year. The big transition is that I feel very fortunate that Chief Locke is following me. He's my successor, and we've been kind of together since about March, preparing for this changeover here in the next month or so. So I feel very fortunate that the books and the financial of the IFC will be in great hands.
So in your new leadership position on the board, what do you think are the top 2 or 3 priority issues that are facing the organization of the fire services?
Well, one, I guess it's probably because I'm still the treasurer today until later this weekend, but it's probably the financial stability of the organization. We've worked very hard under my treasurership that we're financially sound and that we continue to diverse our revenue. And that's probably the biggest one that I'd like to see even through my chairs through president, is that we continue to diversify our revenue and ensure that our expenses match our revenue and that we always have a balanced budget. That'd be one. The second would be that we continue to provide for our members. We do a lot of legislative work. That has got to continue on Capitol Hill, and that we provide our members that back to them, and so that they can understand and educate their firefighters, et cetera, to make sure the fire service is always represented on Capitol Hill.
What are you most looking forward to at FRI this week?
Oh, a lot. It is a rejuvenation for me. This is one of my favorite conferences. Probably the biggest is the continuation of networking. You meet so many friends through the fire service, and it seems like this is the family reunion every year, and I really enjoy getting to be caught up with them and hitting some of the educational seminars as I can.
Chief Caruso, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you to Chief Caruso. Next in our profiles, we head to Louisiana and the St. George Fire Protection District, which has grown substantially over the past few decades.
The main mission of the St. George Fire Protection District is fire protection and protection of life and property from fire and medical emergencies. We started in 1967 as a volunteer department. I came actually in 1987, so I've been here a long time, but not quite from the beginning. And I've seen the department transition from a volunteer part-time paid contract to a fully career department today. We run about 9,000 calls a year. We have 205 people that work for us. We have 8 engine companies, 2 rescue engine companies and 2 ladder companies, staffed fully with 4 people assigned every day. St. George Fire Protection District is unique because of the people that work here. The men and women that work for us are just by far the best. They're very dedicated and trained and educated, and they do a phenomenal job.
Our community involvement here at St. George goes back to our inception as an organization. About 3 or 4 years ago, we got an idea that we wanted to kind of broaden our horizon in what we do with the community, and we thought that kids was a good place to start.
We work with the community on a number of issues. Currently, we have what's called Safety Land going on for 3 weeks in the month of July. And what that is children of the ages between 7 and 9 come to us, and we've partnered with Alliance Safety Council. We partner with them for these 3 weeks out of the month of July to teach children about safety.
They learn everything from fire safety, police safety, EMS, industrial safety things. They learn about driving safety, different things like that. So it's been really a wonderful experience, and it allows the public to come in and really see what we do here. And each kid leaves here with a little backpack with the St. George Fire Protection District logo on it, and it's just a wonderful relationship.
Being involved in the community, I guess, brings us to the heart of what we do. We get to know people, we get involved with schools, we get involved with assisted living facilities, which we have quite a number of in our district. It gets our firefighters down to the street level so they understand what goes on, they understand the culture, they understand the people. And these are the people that we're sworn to protect.
The commitment for the St. George Fire Protection District to training and education is very high. We have currently 5 employees that are graduates of the National Fire Academy Executive Officer program. We have some people on staff that teach for the National Fire Academy, and we currently this week have 2 employees that are at the Fire Academy.
The unique thing about St. George is we don't just train, we educate also. To sit for promotional tests, as a minimum, our firefighters have to have an associate degree in fire science or above. So part of what we do, for me, it's a trilogy. Training, education, and experience goes hand in hand with providing the best firefighters in the world.
Over the past year, we created a St. George Firefighters Foundation. So one of the things that we did this past year was we created something called the LIFT Conference, the Louisiana Instructors and Firefighters Training Conference. We hosted it here in March, and we had roughly about 275 firefighters from around the state and neighboring states as well that attended the conference. So that was one element of the foundation that we wanted to do, and the whole premise of the foundation is training and education.
Currently, we have 2 big projects coming up. One is we're going to ramp up from BLS to ALS service. We're starting that program this fall. We also created the foundation for education and training, dealing with just not only firefighters, but the public in general. And we're working on a program to where we can have a conference center to bring things, when we talk about safety, to bring this educational thing to the public every day. Not just 3 weeks out of the year, but every day.
In the future, I see the fire department being able to provide a higher level of service to the community through more training opportunities, more educational opportunities. We're also advancing our level of care on the medical side. Because really in the fire industry, the medical side is the majority of what we do every day here. And also with the community aspect of it, with a life safety park that will be able to create a one-stop shop, if you will, for everybody to come in here in a community-style environment and really learn things that could enhance their quality of life.
Next in our profiles, we learn about a forest service that started the first predictive services group in the U.S.
Texas A&M Forest Service is one of only 5 state forestry agencies in the nation that's part of a land-grant university. And being part of Texas A&M, we are the service arm of the A&M University or land-grant system. And because of that, we have a duty to protect the citizens and the resources of the state, but we also do that through service. The only way that we can accomplish our mission is through the power of partnerships. We believe in partnerships and coalitions and building the capacity of others, whether it's a landowner, a citizen, a community, or a fire department. With a state as big as ours and as diverse as ours, we had to figure out a way, how do we accomplish protecting the people and the resources of this state. We do it through a tiered approach, which is called the Texas Wildfire Protection Plan. And there's really 5 stages of that. And the first one is predictive services, and very closely associated with that is planning and preparedness. And then we have mitigation and prevention. And probably the backbone of our tiered approach is capacity building. The last one is incident response.
Predictive services. We are the first predictive services group in the nation. We started back in '98. Our main task is to monitor and forecast the fire environment across the state. Forecasting and monitoring the fire environment helps our firefighters maintain situational awareness of fire potential and helps them understand what type of fire they may deal with on any given day.
Over 90% of wildfires in Texas are human-caused. Our main goal is to prevent fire occurrence and loss. The majority of wildfires in Texas are near communities, and so we work with those communities closely on mitigation and prevention programs. We do a lot of public outreach. We talk to schools, children, and adults all about ways that they can prevent wildfires from just their own homes on their own property. Simple things like debris burning, keeping your gutters clean, and just keeping your property clean from vegetation with short vegetation. Through the Texas Wildfire Risk Assessment Portal, or TexRAP, we can identify what areas have high risk to moderate risk and even low risk. And we work with them to, first of all, just even let them know what their risks are and what specific mitigation efforts they can do to reduce their risk. Not all fire is bad fire. Prescribed fire is a planned scientific approach to reduce or mitigate the effects of wildfire.
Texas is a big place, and we have 167 million acres. We have 28 million Texans, and there's only 500 TFS employees. So the only way that we can accomplish our mission is to work with others and build their capacity.
In Texas, there are over 1,800 fire departments. Over 1,500 of them are volunteer fire departments. And without question, they are the front line of defense. They are the ones that are going to arrive first. And we want them to be successful in protecting their communities, protecting their residences, and essentially lives. Our programs are designed to bolster the response capacity of fire departments in Texas. We offer the most aggressive suite of programs in the country. We have anywhere from grants for fire apparatus, equipment, training aids.
By law, through the authority of the Texas Department of Emergency Management, TDEM, the TFS is one of the state agencies that are a lead in incident response. And that requires not only responding to now, we are also part of recovery. So we go from incident response, incident management, and also recovery.
Our agency is the lead agency for the state of Texas in response to wildland fires. So it's our job to support our local fire departments and respond across the state to those incidents. We utilize our capacity building programs to increase our capabilities of our local fire departments, about 1,800 of those across the state. And we utilize a program called TIFMAS, Texas Intrastate Fire Mutual Aid System, and that allows us to move resources from non-impacted areas into other impacted areas to support and supplement state resources.
The only way that we can accomplish our mission is through the power of partnerships. We've got to build capacity and work and build coalitions and relationships every day. The bottom line of all this is a point that I've made a number of times to elected officials, is the fact that if all hell breaks loose, I want to be in Texas because we work together and we know how to handle it.
IAFC TV has all the coverage you want with the big events and key newsmakers. Be sure to check out our content, which is updated each day here on YouTube from FRI here in Atlanta, Georgia. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. We'll have much more coverage from FRI 2019 here in Atlanta tomorrow, including an interview with the Program Planning Committee Chair. See you tomorrow.